All right, let's talk media now, and our regular panel joins me, media commentator Brian Edwards and listener columnist Bill Ralston. Good morning to you, gentlemen. A big blow for MediaWorks this week. It's lost its Home and Away to Television New Zealand. Not only is Home and Away a popular show in its own right, but it also delivers a good audience, of course, to the 6 o'clock news. Most of these viewers are from the key audience demographic of 25 to 54. They're also mainly female, and they are from all over the country. It is a big blow, isn't it, Brian?
Yeah, I think it's a significant blow, really. Mind you, Home and Away did have a much bigger audience. If you go back a few years, in 2010, for example, there were 400,000 people watching that show. So I think it's around 250,000 now, something like that. But still, people I think often don't understand ratings very well. You know, ratings don't always have a lot to do with the quality of a programme.
What you're saying is it sets it up for the night.
It sets it up for the night. That's absolutely right, and that's not going to happen anymore.
There's a strong lead into 3 News, and they will miss that. It depends what they replace it with, but more of a worry is what other program rights has TV3 now lost? What's happening with the Fox deal? $18 million worth of prime programming sitting out there that's now probably up for grabs, and I bet TVNZ are in for their kill on that one as well.
Yeah, TVNZ would have paid big dollars for this because they'll see it as quite a hit, not just in the fact that they've got the program, but it will damage TV3, do you think?
Well, this sort of what inheritance factor they call it tends to go right through the evening to some extent. So if the news loses, then the program after the news loses, and so it goes on right down the track like that. Very interesting to read some of the sort of feedback you're getting from people about this whole thing. There's absolute despair out there among all these viewers of Home and Away. The other thing that slightly surprised me is why is TVNZ putting it on Channel 2? You might have thought it would go in the same slot on Channel 1.
But crucially, this is about young audience. This is about a young audience that has followed TV3 programmes throughout the evening. That's the big
It depends where TVNZ put it on TV2. If they put it at 5:30, then it still gives that younger audience a choice if they're into news between TV3 or TV1's news. But I think the biggest challenge for the new board and for Julie Christie, who's an expert in this kind of programming area, is to shore up the rights deals around the rest of TVNZ's programming.
Do you think you could see news, a big decision, could news be moved around as a result of this?
I can't see that.
I can't see anyone blinking
that
at this stage on a 6 o'clock, moving from a 6 o'clock news slot to either 5:30 or 6:30. Can't see it happening.
I actually watched Home and Away for the first time ever. It's actually been on since 2002. That's unbelievable. I'd never seen it before.
It's long.
It's quite a nice, gentle sort of family sort of a programme. And, I can see why it's so popular. And its viewership is not all very young people. I mean, you talk about 25 to 50, whatever. And I suspect a few older ones. In the programme itself, there are people of all ages. Quite interesting.
And don't forget, 3 can bring in a game show, a cooking show.
Do you think not the cooking show?
Cooking shows.
Bill Ralston at 5:30.
Well, what about a 5:30 live type program? You could bring in a Paul Henry, for example. It gives them the options.
You'd like that,
would you like that?
No, I'm asking you. I'm interviewing you now. You would like that, wouldn't you, Duncan?
I'll ask questions today. OK, look, let's leave that there. Christchurch, of course, a lot of movement overnight in Christchurch. Christchurch City Council CEO stood down this week, and the press has led the charge on the poor performance of the council. Here's an editorial written by press reporter Glenn Conway, who wondered if this was the end of the Bob and Tony show. Glenn Conway joins us now from Christchurch. Glenn, thanks for your time this Sunday morning. What do you make of the decision by Bob Parker? Are you surprised that he's stood aside from contesting the mayoralty?
No, I'm not really. 6 weeks ago I did a story in the Sunday Star Times suggesting he was going to pull the pin. My sources back then were pretty rock solid, and I think this has been a long time coming for Bob. Leanne Dalziel putting her hand in the ring is probably the final nail in the coffin as far as he was concerned. The consents issue over the last couple of weeks certainly hasn't helped, but
your coverage too has been strong, hasn't it? I mean, you've been critical, haven't you? I mean, the Christchurch press has been critical of Marriott. The Christchurch press has been critical of Parker. Why?
Why? I think we've got some solid ground behind that. I mean, this chap Marriott is a nice guy. Like, I know Tony quite well. He's a very nice guy, but he is in a key role. He has made some really interesting decisions with very little public feedback. Bob and Tony have been side by side through all this. As soon as Tony started losing a bit of control and was exposed, I think it was only a matter of time before Parker joined.
Well, but Parker's position now is that he was misled like everyone else. Do you accept that he was misled?
I don't buy that, to be fair. it's either that he was misled and wasn't informed, or he was reading everything and wasn't across it. Either way, it's incompetence, isn't it?
Glenn, I don't think it's any accident that Bob Parker chose to make his announcement on Campbell Live and not in the Christchurch Press. Do you think you guys did give him a fair enough run? Because he obviously doesn't.
He certainly doesn't think we did. We've always been very fair, open, given Bob the chance to respond to all stories. To be fair, I think Bob had a really good run after the earthquakes. He was exceptional in that role. But I think people don't remember that prior to the earthquakes and then about 6 months after the earthquakes, it was business as usual in terms of the Bob and Tony show.
What went wrong? Did he just put too much store on Marriott? Did Marriott take him down?
Absolutely. Yeah, look, I think so. I think Bob put some, what I like to call blind faith in Tony. He trusted him implicitly, and rightly so for some time. He steered Bob through some pretty tough decisions, but at the end of the day, Bob believed what Tony was telling him implicitly, without doubt, without any question.
You know, Glenn,
when
you say all of this, you realise that at the moment you're tearing down a hero, don't you? You understand that?
Look, that's interesting, Brian, because I was in Auckland last year and I was at a restaurant and people were saying, "Oh, where are you from?" And I said, "Christchurch," and they said, "We love your mayor, he's great." And look, Bob is a nice chap. He did a fantastic job during the earthquakes. And one of his serious failings is his political judgment is quite poor, in my view.
Did they shut you out, though? Did you find it difficult when you were taking these editorial stances against what was happening at the council? Did you find that they pulled the shutters down and the flow of information was not coming your way? What was the difficulties?
A little bit of that. Although, to be fair, and if we're talking about Bob particularly, he's always been pretty accessible to us, pretty open. You just have to give this guy a text and he normally comes back. So, you know, I'll give him credit for that. He's pretty open and accessible to questions. He may not like the questions that have been asked and he may be quite careful in his responses. I've never found Bob a problem to get on with, to be fair.
But if you watched him on Campbell Live a couple of nights back, you could see that he was done. You could see that he was exhausted. And there was no way, there was just no way that he could carry on. He looked like an old man on that programme.
Yeah, he's aged considerably, hasn't he? And look, I mean, who would want that job at the moment? It's a tough
Well, Leanne Dalziel wants that job, and the question's going to be, Glenn, you know, can she get on better with central government, and can she make that Christchurch council machinery work better than Parker?
Look, I don't know, actually. I have some doubts about that. I think that the machine above the council has its own agenda and it's doing its own thing, and I really don't know if it matters who's in that job.
Just on media terms, I mean, are there many leaks coming out of the council? How are you finding access to information? Because if you are being locked out a bit of it around the edges, do you getting lots of leaks out of the council? Have you got some players in there or not?
Yeah, we've got some sources in the council, but yeah, look, some things are very watertight, and I think partly because it's on a need-to-know basis in that council. I think a lot of the councillors themselves will tell you that they are being withheld information, they are not being told the full story. So getting leaks and getting sources and solid information out of the council isn't easy as it used to be, that's for sure.
All right, Glenn, we appreciate your time. Glenn Conway from the Christchurch Press. Now, you have got something, a little bugbear, haven't you?
I'm kind of cross about this, actually. You see, if poor people like Bill and me, for example, with no particular profile, want to sell a house, we have to give tens of thousands of dollars to real estate agents. We have to pay huge amounts for advertising in newspapers. What happens here? We have Kate Hawkesby and Mike Hosking. They're selling their house. They're selling their $2 billion house for a lot more than that. So this is the Herald. This is a few days ago. So here they are on the front page, all right? And then we go inside and we find they have a whole half page. This is a free half-page advertisement.
What would that be worth? What do we think, $20,000?
Something like that, I would imagine. Something like that, I would imagine. It's absolutely huge. Why is that there, is my question.
Well, my question is why has he got framed
wine bottles
on the wall?
Because
I think it's fair to assume that we'd drink it.
I think we would.
I mean, this is really bizarre for a newspaper. And the whole text of this reads like a real estate advertisement.
Doesn't it?
Why you should buy their house. Because they need a bigger house because they've got so many children.
Well, yes, it is. Yeah. And we're $20,000. How the other half lives, perhaps.
How the other half lives.
All right, Brian, it was nice to see you. Bill Ralston, good to be on the programme with you this morning.